Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Light 360. I am so excited to bring Light 360 to you this week. We have an exciting, powerful, inspiring lineup for you this week. 2 short days, today and tomorrow, and it's going to be a wonderful, a powerful time. Really looking forward to the conversations. How are you guys doing? So much happening here in the United States and just happening around the world. But in the midst of everything going on, God has been faithful to us all. So we just want to celebrate God and just appreciate Him for His faithfulness. So as I usually say at the beginning, I want to thank those of you that are joining us, beginning to join us right now. You can see, I would like to ask you to go ahead and share this broadcast wherever you are watching from, whichever platform you are using to watch us. Share it so that we can be able to reach more people with this conversation. So for those who are joining us newly, I would like to reiterate, what Light 360 is about. So Light 360, 360 degrees. That's what 360 stands for. So that's light all around. So on Light 360, what we do is we look all around within our city, within our nation, and also internationally. And we look for individuals who, they are ordinary individuals like you and I, but through the grace of God, they are shining as lights in their spheres of influence. They're shining as lights in their spheres of influence. They are shining as Christ lights, bringing a blessing to people by walking in God's purpose for their lives. So we bring them on Light 360. And then we listen to the stories of their lives. I ask them questions and they share, from their hearts. And as we listen to their stories, we are inspired to go on further to be lights in our own spheres of influence. Yeah, welcome, Jepta, Zambia. Yeah, you're a regular. Good to see you. Yeah, so basically that's what we do on Light 360, and it's been such a wonderful time. We've had lots of people on this show since around the middle of last year. This is season 3, and it's just been very inspiring for me personally and for people who have been watching. And I always appreciate the feedback that we get from people about how the people who come on Light 360 have inspired them. So please send feedback at Pastor Land on all the different platforms, and just send feedback. I appreciate that. All right, so that we can have as much time as we ought to have for today's guests. I want to introduce our guest for today. We have somebody special coming on today, somebody who is a co-laborer in Chicagoland with us, and just excited, to see, the work that she's doing, our focus and love for the young ones, for the transformation of the next generation. I've observed her on Facebook, on social media. In fact, some years ago, she was one of the recipients of the GLOW Award, which is an award that we usually will give yearly, to people just to encourage and appreciate people who are helping us live better lives in our cities, and, just expanding God's kingdom and, being a blessing to the people that God cares about. So you guys are going to enjoy our story today, I believe, and I know God has something that He has given her to share with us, and we're going to be encouraged today. So let me introduce her. So we have on the show today we have Miss Jennifer Chang. Let me read her bio, and I'll bring her on shortly. Jenny is the president of Monster Education Foundation. Her frustration and feeling of helplessness as she taught in Austin, Chicago, is what led her to create MEF with other founding board members. She holds an elementary education degree from Wheaton College and a master's degree in special education and educational leadership, both from Northeastern Illinois University. She's the director of children's ministry at Lakeview Covenant Church in Northbrook, Illinois. And her passion is to nurture young people to grow in their positive impact on the world. Jenny enjoys an occasional game of laser tag or go-karting with her kids and hangs out at Maggie Daley Park. Jenny is hanging out at Maggie Daley Park. Jenny is married to her awesome husband, Michael. I've actually met Michael before at the award, and they are wonderful kids, and has 3 children, Matthew, Andrew, and Samantha. So we have somebody coming on today who has a passion for the younger generation, and we're just going to explore that, and I believe you are going to be blessed. So without much ado, let's welcome Miss Jennifer Chang to Light 360. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you. I know you're a busy mom. So, and then I'm among other stuff, right? So thank you for just making the time to be on this show. Really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure. Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me and even thinking to ask.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. So I'm going to ask you a question. And, it's one of those things that has been in the news, in recent times. A lot of, tragedy, just different things. We saw one that took place just a few days ago, and the one that took place before then, just within a week. And the first one was one of those things that really affected Asian Americans. And obviously, you are an Asian American. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, how you are processing that with God, anything that, that's on your mind regarding that, before we go ahead into all this stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. And I think it's those questions that, hi, Shalom. Those questions are what's helping me process when people do ask, and also just share their thoughts, and then it makes me develop my own thoughts. I've been feeling a little bit helpless because I'm reflecting on just my own experience growing up Asian American, and just not experiencing too much hardship. Like in most regards, I've been surrounded by just really diverse communities where I've been accepted, and I have not felt threatened. And even with this last year, I kept on hearing, and I hated hearing on the news when our president called the flu, I hated it. But personally, I didn't experience hardship, but I kept on hearing others experience it. So my heart went out to them. But in terms of action, I didn't feel like I did anything. So, and then, when I got asked questions like, where are you from? And, like, where are you really from? I chose to not be offended too much. A lot of times I just said, I'm Korean American, whatever. And I just kind of, let it go. So anyway, I feel like I did not struggle with this as much as I should have. And so if anything, I feel like I'm processing a lot right now. And, what the people who are being impacted, actually, they're getting closer and closer. Actually, my niece, like third removed niece, she actually got attacked in downtown Chicago. Some tall 6'1" 6'2", guy, white guy, it doesn't matter, but threw a rock at her and called her like, a Chinese virus. And
wow.
And that happened like last year, like last April or May, I think. So, it is happening. I can't deny it. And then we see the stories on the news where it could have been my grandma, it could have been my mom that was pushed or shoved, or, and a lot, like, I'm just seeing these innocent people being impacted. So I'm praying through just, what am I supposed to be doing? And, our church life group, our small groups, like, what should we be doing besides just praying? And I'm still very early on, I think, in that process.
Yeah, and I truly understand. I have been, in that kind of a situation. Maybe I'm in that situation where I see, issues that affect African Americans. And I have not really gone through a lot of that. I came from Africa, came to this place, and usually, sometimes some of us that came from Africa, we find it easy, somehow a bit easier in certain ways, because I feel that sometimes when people are talking with Africans, they feel a less kind of guilt when they are talking to Africans. So we've experienced less than what some people have really, really gone through. And sometimes when all these things erupt, I have to remind myself, and say, you know what? Wow. Even though I have not experienced as much as that, but there are people who are really, really going through these things, and we're connected. And apart from that, we're all connected by, in that sense, I'm talking about the African American, by our skin color, So basically, and then of course, just like you talked about, it affecting people close to you. I remember a time when my daughter came from school and tells me that somebody called her a particular name, right? African booty leg or something like that. I was like, what? Yeah. And I was like, so I had to talk to her and tell her that, don't let that affect you and all that. And of course, we had to address it. So sometimes some of these things go on to start affecting those who we love, right? Even though we may not have, experienced it and all that. And so that's why I love what you're saying. You're processing it to see, so how do we respond? How do we respond as a church, to all these things going on? And I believe that the greatest response is truth, just the truth, grace and truth. The truth of how it ought to be and how it not to be, and then of course, coached in grace and love. So that's how these things. But these things are real. So I really thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing that. So you mentioned that you are, Korean American. Hi, Denise. Good to see you. Yeah, that you are, you're Korean American. So let's go back a little bit and just talk about your history. So tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started out in life.
Sure. Yeah, well, so I'm an immigrant. My parents moved to the States. Actually, we moved to Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah, when I was 3. And I lived in Utah, next to the mountains until 10. So about 7, 8.
From Korea to Utah? Okay.
Yeah, from Korea, 3 to 10, I was in Utah. And, my parents wanted to make sure that I never forget speaking Korean. So even though, like, I don't know how they did it, but they scraped together money, even though, they were on meager income, enough to make sure that we got shipped back to Korea during the summer vacations, like when I, 3 years, every 3 years. So I think I went 3 times when I was little.
Wow, is so. I mean, I have to pause to ask you a question about that. How your parents? I always wondered, and I've always admired. I've always admired the Asian community in the way they raise their children. So for example, language, like speaking the native language, music. I've had to take my kids for exams and all that, like, go to IIT, some of these exams, and I'll see a lot of Asian kids in there. So serious, like there's just this value of education, just taking advantage of everything that is available. So I've always wanted to ask that question. So you are the one I'm going to ask. What's the secret behind it? How did your parents do it, especially the language? Because we have not been able to do it with our kids.
Well,
they just laugh at us.
I heard that Nigerians are the same.
Well, we not necessarily. Our kids, especially when it comes to the educational aspect, right? Nigerians are like that, right? But when it comes to speaking the native language, a lot of us have failed woefully in that area. We tried and everything, but for some reason we just failed.
I really appreciate my parents for they heard when I was 3, 4, 5, and then right around age 6, my mom told me that she started hearing my Korean accent
disappear,
and she freaked out. So she said we need to do something. So I really remember when I went to Korea we were there for 3 months with my aunt. She took us in for 3 months, and I remember my even my Korean actually, because that is such a key time, those kindergarten, first grade is when your language is so, developed so solidly. And I remember Korean actually became more comfortable than English at that time. And so I totally expected that to happen again when I was 9. And I distinctly remember, no, it didn't happen anymore. I whatever I learned when I was 6, that stuck with me. So that early age, I'm so thankful that for me, because I didn't get to go to school at all in Korea. My brother and sister who are older than me, they went to school for kindergarten, first grade, but that was really key for me to really learn Korean and to appreciate it. Although we also went to Korean school in Utah and we hated it. Every Saturday, go there, and it's we wasted time. We once a week, but the main reason why I kept my Korean is because I spoke to my parents never learned really English very well. And so we were the interpreters.
Yes.
We were blessed to have our grandparents live with us for a while as well.
Wow.
So and then when I was 10, we moved to Chicagoland area. And we've been here ever since.
Okay.
Awesome. I knew ever since I was little that I wanted to be a teacher. Okay. And I always thought that, I'd be teaching until I die, until I retire. And no, that wasn't God's plan for me, but that was my plan when I was young. So.
Awesome. I still want to ask you something about Korea. Are you familiar with Korea South Korea, right? You're from South Korea, as a nation, and what God is doing in that nation? Because I understand that some of the largest churches in the world are in South Korea and all that. Are you in touch with them?
I think South Korea, Korea as a whole, North Korea, Pyongyang is where the church started and it was the, Jerusalem of Korea. I should know more, but all I know is it's what just a testimony of the missionaries that sowed those seeds into Korea, and praise God for these white missionaries that suffered and stayed in Korea, even though it was a third world country. It was and not that long ago. The history of Christianity and the modernization of Korea is so fast in terms of world history. So I'm so grateful for the legacy of the church, and that legacy has brought me to where I am back here in America.
Yeah, so tell us about that. How did you your faith journey? How did you come to meet Christ? Were your parents Christians, or how did that come about?
Yeah, well, I guess I don't know if I ever told you, but my father is a pastor, and
I didn't know that.
He came to America because of becoming a pastor. I think it was the first Korean church in Utah, in Salt Lake City. So, just growing up in a Christian family, and just with my parents leading the church, I never doubted God. I didn't have to, because even though, we didn't have much, as a family, we didn't have much financially, God just provided always. It was always, their testimony that, as they sowed and as they served, and they served sacrificially just all the time. I mean, this was not weird for us that we had like people staying at our house, even though we lived in a public housing, in an apartment. It was not weird that we always had people in need living with us. And at one point, we had a homeless Korean man living, sharing rooms with my brother, and it was not weird to us because just having, just serving others was just part of their testimony. So, just seeing that in my parents and having that family worship, it was forced. It was not fun all the time, but it was our families, it was our routine to have worship together as a family and, go around and read verses in Korean and memorize verses together. And as soon as I could, start serving at church, even though I was a pretty bratty Sunday school student. I remember I gave my teacher a hard time, and I would like try to run away from class once, sometimes. But as soon as I could, as soon as I was old enough, or not even old enough, but like as soon as I was able to teach something, I started teaching the kids. And I mean, I hear from Shalom and Pastor Olu all the time that they, like it's the kids that are serving at the church. And I think that's such an amazing thing. And that was my experience too. As soon as I was in charge of a Sunday school classroom. And so anyway, like just, I never had to doubt God yet, sharing my faith. And, it was like, in my teenage, 96, I went on my first missions trip to Atlanta during the Olympics. And it really was a time. Hi, Pastor James.
Pastor James.
It was a chance for me to really share my faith with strangers. And that really was a shaping time in my life, suffering, a little bit because it's missions trip, but also, going out and sharing and talking to strangers about, and praying with strangers. And that was a shaping moment too.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you from your story, you being at home and then your dad pastoring, your parents, ministering to other people, bringing people into your house. I just wanted to ask you, were there some values that were, transferred to you that, influence what you do now? Like, what are some things you picked up from those experiences of being a pastor's kid? A PK, like we call them. Like my kids are PKs.
You're really a good PK or you're a bad PK.
Yeah.
And I don't know, actually, I'm not the good one either. So, I guess one thing that, when my husband and I, when we got married, we had very different upbringing in terms of like, of that area. And, we had strangers at our house all the time. So that's one thing that, God really like meld our marriage together is, being able to host people at our home. We are very open now to host, when people need to stay somewhere for a couple months or, a student that just graduated that's looking for a job. So we just had somebody, living with us for, we thought it was gonna be longer, but it was only like 3 months. She said some indefinite amount of time, and it was kind of scary. But we were open to helping her get her footing, into adult world. And just having guests come over. Like we had a conference at Wheaton College for, it was called SFC, Student for Christ. It was a big conference, and at one, like the leadership team comes a week early, so they stayed with us. And then more people come and then they stay with us. And then at one point we actually had from like 4 people to 8 people to like literally we had 30 people that slept in our house for 2 nights. It was so much fun just to people. And my kids, they see that too. So I'm hoping that, they will take some of that hospitality mentality. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's not that it's more you get so much more out of hosting than not. And and I'm hoping, we always have like guests that are just really easy guests, but we're hoping that our heart will be moved open enough to even house guests that are not that easy. So, we're trying to step into being a safe family, in Chicago. So we went through the paperwork for that, and we're kind of standing by right now. So.
Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad you are sharing that. It's something that you saw in your parents, and now it's being lived out by you. And you are the second guest. Last week we had Pastor Mike Hallen on. Was the former pastor of Uptown Baptist, and is the founder of Together Chicago right now. So we had him on, and he was also sharing about how his home was like that. Why it was encouraging to me, because our home, up until about 2 years ago, our home was like that. Growing up, our kids, two of our kids are teenagers now. And then, we have a girl that's, she's going to be 10 this year. So for all their growing up life, we had people, uncles, aunties, and all that, staying with us, and people will move out from our house, and move on and all that. We just thought, in the last, was it 2017, that we wanted a time, a time that we'll be as a family together with nobody staying with us. So, with no one staying with us. And so this is the first time in my wife and I, our 20-year marriage, our marriage will be 20 years in May, that we have lived alone without anybody living with us. But we just couldn't stop it. So we just recently bought a property in Rogers Park that we're setting up. Incidentally, my wife, while I was doing this interview, my wife just came to the basement to get some bed sheet and all that, because we're hosting our first guest in that property that we just bought. So she's going there to put some things in there. Yeah. So hospitality, like Pastor James is posting here, hospitality mentality is caught more than taught. Say you and your family are a great hosts. I've enjoyed having meals in your home. I just wish if we can even just communicate that to people that are watching, because we have been so blessed. Sometimes it's tough, right? Because when people live in your home, they know the true you. They know everything about you. You can't pretend. They know your marriage. They know they know.
They know how much we yell at our kids. Oh my gosh.
Yes, they know everything. So, it can be tough at times. It's like you are under a microscope, right? But we have enjoyed it. And, the only reason why we decided that we were going to move it outside of the house was because of our kids as they began to grow into teenage years. We just wanted them to say, we had some privacy sometimes, to just be themselves. You understand? And that's why we're moving it outside, and they are now part of it themselves.
That's a great idea.
Yesterday night we're all there, setting up the place, and all that. Everybody was there, including the younger one, excited and everything. So they've seen it, but in the early part of their lives, it was always within our house. So it's, so I just, so that's something we just decided. We decided to do that, to just give them that freedom. But hospitality, I think it's the face of Christ. The face of, Christianity is our love to accept strangers, to accept people, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you are, becoming a safe family. I've looked into that before and all that, and you just brought it to my mind again. It's just awesome. We've had some people come into our home, and some of them were not believers. We've had some people come from South America and all that. They've stayed in our house. Other people, and just the experience of being there or being with a Christian family and watching everything actually made a mark on their lives. That they just can't be erased. And so thank you for sharing that. So
and honestly, I want to say it's not that hard. I mean, and I think what's kind of sad is for example, we had one of our scholars who moved out to North Carolina we wanted to fly her back so that she could be part of our celebration. And you know, like we just told like the people around us or, you know, church members, like, oh, you know, we're going to have one of our scholars stay with us, you know, for the weekend. And it's like, really? Like, you know, and it's like, it's not a big deal. You know, it's just, I just feel like, you know, people are missing out.
Yeah, people are missing. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's a lot of fun even for the kids, for everyone. We had fun doing it all those years, and you build bonds. And some of our strongest partners in ministry now that we do the work of City Light and you know, even internationally, they have lived in our homes. You know, they've lived with us, and then they moved on. They have their homes now. They are doing the same thing to other people. So it is fun. It is fun. Yeah. Well, thank you. So I noticed that, you know, you talked about the heart for teaching. That's the core thing about you. Now, before we get into that, to teaching and to Monster Education Foundation, let's talk about your early influences. Who are some other people apart from your parents that really made a mark on you, on your life?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say my dad, you know, just sacrificial giving and serving. But I mean, I had great professors. I went to Champaign for 2 years, and I remember my freshman year, you know, just taking an education course that really showed me about the inner city and, you know, really got me to start having a heart for the city. You know, I had great professors, and then I transferred to Wheaton College. So wonderful professors over there. And Jill Lederhouse, she was one of my professors, and she really helped me shape my philosophy of education. Yeah, and then recently, you know, after we started MEF, we were partnered with a wonderful coach. Ellen Estrada she became like our mentor my mentor for, you know, shaping this organization, and just her incredible heart for just not just for education, but especially just having a Christ-hearted organization and shaping our organization so that it stays humble to God, and kind of just, you know, being careful to not lose sight of that, because it's easy to lose sight, actually. So just so many, there's mentors all around me that have poured into me. And I mean, and now I'm learning even from, you know, our scholars and, you know, from the kids themselves, you know, as they are resilient. And I mean, I could say Shalom, you know, she always inspires me with, you know, her excitement and her, you know, her view of life. And so anyway, there's been a lot of people that have inspired me. And then I have to actually say my husband is probably one of the biggest inspirations for me. Is like, he's my sounding board, of course, when, you know, when I have an idea, and he's always the one that like keeps me, you know, in check. But his insight is always, he's very perceptive in how he, you know, what will work, what won't work. And I'm just so grateful for him.
Awesome. So 2 questions from that. So what was behind you going to Wheaton? What led you to that decision? And then how did you meet your husband? How did you meet Michael?
Wheaton. It's because I didn't make it my freshman year. And I wanted to try again. So I tried again my sophomore year, and then my junior year. I made it after my junior year, you know, I was like, this is my chance to go. So but the main reason why I wanted to transfer to Wheaton is because of, you know, that heart for the city of Chicago in particular, that was planted in me. I knew that I wanted to end up teaching in the city in Chicago, but I couldn't student teach if I was in Champaign, you know, in Chicago. So I knew that Wheaton College had a program. There's a, you know, Grover Cleveland Elementary School. I could student teach there. So that's why I transferred to Wheaton, in order to be able to teach there. And then I ended up getting a job there and working there for 6 years.
Oh, okay. I see. Then how did you meet Michael?
So it's a pretty boring story, but, you know, it's kind of, he's actually my brother's best friend from high school.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
You know, That's it.
How did your brother feel, when when he heard the first time that his best friend was going out with his sister?
He was surprisingly supportive. Actually, so we didn't start dating until, after college. But I guess, my brother was a fan of it before I was. Thankfully so. So his wife actually really wanted to, set us up. But before all that, I would say that the real reason why we're together is because my grandmother, before she passed away, she had her eye on, Mike, and she started praying for us even before I thought of him as anything except, my brother's friend. Damn. And then I really feel like her prayers really, helped our families.
Those grandmother prayers, they're always very powerful,
I know.
Grandmothers have always been a feature on Light 360. Almost everyone that comes in telling their story, they either talk about their mom or talk about their grandmother praying for them.
Oh, wow.
So there's something powerful about grandmothers.
I need to develop my prayer life so I could be that grandmother. Oh my.
Yes, I'm sure you will be. Awesome. So that's how you met Michael. So let's talk about the teaching. Of course, you know about the concept of purpose, like your purpose in life, right? It seems as if you found your purpose in teaching, right? The gift God gave you is teaching, and that's how you are expressing His purpose for you on earth. Can you tell us that process, like walk us through that process, how you began to discover that and how you navigated just finding yourself in that, living that purpose out?
So, I don't know if I really searched for a purpose. I just know even when I was little, I remember even in Utah, starting age, 7, 8, I was the one that always, wanted to take care of the kids. I love the babies, and, I always, just was drawn to, and I would tutor them, if whether they needed it or not. I don't know. I was always teaching, tutoring, one-on-one or whatever. And the older, the parents, they knew that, so they would always ask me to teach. So just in it, I just enjoyed it a lot. So I always thought I would be a teacher, and I always dreamed of it. So when I went to college, I thought, man, is this just a childhood thing that I have not grown out of? Have I not explored other possibilities? And, so I went into college undeclared with no, just to make sure that education was the path. But after, thinking about medicine and thinking about, being a lawyer, whatever, it always led back to, but I want to be I want to be in a classroom with kids. So yeah, I don't know. It wasn't very much soul searching or anything. And then I got to teach, out of necessity at church, Sunday school. So even though I'm not teaching in front of the classroom right now in a public school, which I did before, I'm still teaching Sunday school, and I'm, constantly finding opportunities to teach. So
yeah, very good. I love teaching. The teaching start, that was one of the very first things I discovered. People, they told me actually when I was younger that I'll be teaching people when I was a kid, trying to explain things to them. And I just found out that over the years, that's what I do. And up until now, I think it's a central call of mine to teach and to explain stuff. So I know the way it feels when when you want to communicate something, you want people to get something, and the joy that comes, when they get it. So I think, yeah, so I can feel you with that. So tell us how you moved, just your career progression. So working at Wheaton, was it after then that you started Monster?
Oh, so no. So I had no plans at all to start an organization. Nonprofit world didn't exist to me except, just somewhere else. I wanted to teach, until I retired. So my story is that I got a job at that school that I student taught, Cleveland Elementary School. I taught, first grade, my first year, and then taught, fourth grade for, several years. And then I got married and I started having kids. So after the first one, I was going to go back but then I found out I have number 2 coming. So, I couldn't go back. And then number 3. So I took 6 years off, and I started to panic. I needed to go back into the classroom, and I've been working since I was, I 13 years old. I worked at a dentist. I made money, for my whole, for the whole time. So not making money for that long, even though, my husband could provide for the family. I just felt this inner, depression, just I needed to go back to work, and I need to produce income. And that was something that I think God was really just trying to teach me, and I was being very stubborn about that. I need to make money to feel productive, to feel worthwhile. And I struggled with that even up till pretty recently, actually. But anyway, so I took 6-7 years off of teaching. And then when I finally, my youngest was going into preschool and I had family support, now I'm going to step back into the classroom. I had been teaching in a Hispanic neighborhood in Irving Park, and it was awesome. It was easy. The parents were so appreciative. I loved it. I know classroom management problems. And at the time there was a lot less teacher quality stuff. And I actually didn't like that, because I wanted to be acknowledged. I am a good teacher. Give me the training, show me. But at the time it was just check, check, check.
Yeah.
But now, it's almost overboard the other way. But anyway, when I went back into teaching, I really felt called to go to the inner city, to go to a Black neighborhood, actually, in particular, South Side or West Side. Yeah. So I got a job at Catalyst Circle Rock. And it was just, the training was just so inspiring. And I thought, this is where God wants me to be. I was so excited. And I had zero worries about class management. I was like, that was easy. I was more worried, oh my gosh, I'm kind of rusty on the educational part. I wonder if I could remind myself how to teach algebra and, things like that. Well, when my first day of class teaching, I was in over my head. It was 6th grade class, and, I had taught 4th grade earlier. So yeah, it was more hormones, the older, they're bigger, but I stumbled along. I would prepare for 60, 70 hours of, work, just preparing. And then I would only be able to present about 10% of what I had prepared, because I couldn't control the kids, being quiet or yelling or pushing each other, or, getting into fights in front of me. And I think I probably starting from day 2 or day 3, I just broke down and cried in front of my class. And I actually, after the second week, I resigned from teaching, because I realized, man, these kids, if anything, education is the only way that they're going to make it. And I can't teach them. They can't afford a year of a unqualified teacher teaching and connecting to the kids. So it was such a depressing time. And I remember I left the house 5:30 in the morning, because I wanted to be the first one there, and I was there till the last one. So I thought, if I could prepare a little bit more, do a little bit better, then I can be better. But it became, I couldn't control the class, and I left. I remember the day that I left was actually September 21st, my birthday, 2012. Wow. The administration was amazing. They supported me even through the resignation, and just and they allowed us, actually, after coming from there, just being depressed. They allowed us to go back, actually, and that school was the first school that we recruited our first class of scholars. But yeah.
Wow, that's so. Some people will call that. They will say, "Oh, Jenny failed. She was going to be a teacher. She said she could manage and all that." But they will say, "Wow, that was a failure." But while you were talking, what was coming to my mind was, I'm sure there's something else after that story. When that happened to you, you probably came face to face with your own weaknesses, right? And you reached out to God, and some of the stories that we're going to be getting into right now, that's part of how all those things were born.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Absolutely. I do share that. I do share that story of failing, because I do want to encourage others that God had a story that I had no idea about at the time. And it really felt, I lost, 15 pounds. I couldn't get anything to eat. And it was the lowest, point I had been at. But yet, God had a plan for me that I could not have dreamed of. And where I am right now is I could not have even imagined.
Yeah, so we have a question from the audience. Do you have any regrets leaving?
That's a great question. No, not if I had to give up what God has been doing since then, no, not at all. But do I miss the classroom, and do I think about, should I go back even as a teacher's aide so that I could be with the kids? I mean, I've thought of that even, up till pretty recently, but I think God has given me enough to do, surprisingly, with this organization that I actually probably shouldn't use my time, in elsewhere. I probably should be investing more time into MEF rather than, something else. So yeah, I regret, and I always question, and, up till even recently, but yeah, no, I believe that God has, is continuing to work on my heart and my confidence, actually, in where he's put me right now. So
yeah, very good. Our daughter is named Pearl. So and I was just before we named her, the name came to us. So my wife and I were like, let's go and look let's look at Pearl, how are pearls produced, and we now discovered that pearls are actually the byproduct of the pain and the struggle of we enjoy them. They are treasures and all that, but there was an organism that went through some pain for it to be produced, for those pearls to be produced.
Right.
So, and we just named our Pearl because we just felt that basically God was speaking to us at that time that you went through certain things, you went through certain went through certain struggles, certain things that we were giving back to, and that out of that this is coming forth. So I just wanted to say that when we go through those times, for those who are watching, we go through those times where sometimes our plans get dashed, our confidence gets dashed, and people look at us and say, you tried and attempted and all that. Those are actually great moments where God actually begins to work out his plans for us. I'm reminded of the story of Peter, right? So Jesus, goes to the seaside, sees Peter and said, okay, let me use your boat, right? And then Peter said, okay, go ahead and use it. Jesus finishes preaching. Then he says, okay, now, launch out into the deep and let down your net for a catch. And Peter looked at him and said, I've toiled all night and caught nothing. In other words, I've tried everything. You can call me a failure right now. I've done it all night and all that. But Jesus said, you know what? No, don't worry. There's a plan for all that. You launch out into the deep because something is about to happen. And from that experience, that was Peter's last fishing day, right? He caught a huge number of fishes, but Jesus said, no, what I'm trying to show you is I want you to be a fisher of men. So follow me and I'll make you a fisher of men. So from that fisherman fishing fishes for men, he became a fisher of men and became the mighty apostle Peter that we all know. So God used that circumstance to bring about his purpose. And I think that's like what took place in your story.
I can't believe you said that story, because that actually, 7 years ago, when we had our first launch party, we just started out and we thought we need to start with a lunch.
Yeah.
When it was my time to share my story, that's the story I shared.
Wow.
Party, because Peter, he went back to what he was used to, and he caught nothing. Yet, when he followed Jesus and he did it with Jesus, that was when he captured the fish. And wow, I can't believe that you said that story right now.
That must be the Spirit of God. Yeah. And somebody needed to hear that, because I'm sure somebody is in the audience right now going through exactly that at this moment, going through that, and they're like, oh, wow, they see themselves as a failure. They think it's over. But your story, as we're going to go into it right now, should encourage them that it's not over at all. It's just beginning.
And I want to say I was the biggest critic of myself. I don't think there were very many other people that would have called me a failure. But at the time, I was my biggest critic.
Yes, critic. Yes. Yeah. Awesome. So let's explore how Monster came about.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So out of the failure, my question to God was, God, why did you give me this heart for the city when I can't do it? I want to go, and I during that time that I was with the kids at home, I went out and got 2 master's degrees. I got a special education degree, and then I got a educational leadership degree. Like, I could be a principal, I was like, I'm going to go to the city. I'm going to make this big change. And I couldn't even teach my class. But out of that, just through, I really just the Spirit leading and just in my heart, giving me this perspective that it's not going to be you that's going to lead and that's going to be the leaders, but it's going to be the kids themselves. So go and find those kids and support them, encourage them, cheer them on, so that they will be the future leaders of the city. And one of the nights, probably maybe a couple months after I resigned, or maybe even just a month, I'm not sure. But I woke up in the middle of the night just with kind of just my mind racing with all these thoughts, and I had to go to the computer, and I just started typing just basically what ended up being our vision statement and our whole go and find the kids, and here's how you're going to do it. Even the plan of go to the teachers, have them choose the best kids in their class, and then give them $25 to apply to our program, and then make them go through phase 1 essay, phase 2 essay, even the essay prompts. I think that first night, I rushed to write the thoughts down, because I think the Holy Spirit was just giving me this outline of what MEF can become, or what we will become. So I did that one night, and just kind of sat there and let it just be in a document. And then I told my husband, and he and I actually, when we first got married, we heard this story on the radio about this. I think he worked for Ford, just a blue collar job, and his whole life he lived very humbly, but he had put money away little by little for a long time. And when he retired, it was $1 million. And something up to the extent of he really that $1 million became an annual scholarship that actually funded itself. It vested by itself. And that was such a cool story that we decided when we got married, even before having kids, that we could do something as long as we start early. Yeah. So we started putting a teeny bit of money away. It was not going to turn into $1 million. We were not that faithful, but we started putting a little bit of money away. So we had a little pot of money that we thought, if God gave us this vision, we have a little something. I think it was might have been $3,000 or $4,000, not even that much. But then we shared this vision with another couple. So it was just 2 couples. And the 4 of us, when I shared the vision, actually the other couple, they just felt so sorry for me.
Why?
Because of, feeling depressed and resigning, that he just wanted me to feel better. It's okay, whatever you want, I'll just help you. So thank goodness for pity.
God used it.
Now, the 4 of us, we decided, hey, if we gave $500 each, that would be $2,000 a year. What can we do with $2,000 a year? That idea that I had, let's giving kids $25 each to apply for our program. And then, if we catch them in 6th grade and we we give them something like $100 a year for 6 years. That's a decent scholarship.
Yeah.
So let's make a scholarship and let's see what we can do. That idea could be funded with just literally $2,000.
Yeah.
So it was just like that little seed of an idea. And, we knew that if we had longevity, 6th grade to 12th grade, we'll have some impact on their life.
Yes.
And that was the beginning of the idea. We had this idea, but we didn't have, who would trust us? So, God allowed us to get connected with Good City Chicago at the time. And they gave us a sponsorship, a fiscal sponsorship. And then, several years later, we were able to, go off on our own and become our own nonprofit.
Good City, that's the twins, right? What's the name again?
Jimmy and
yes.
Yeah.
Very good guy.
He has been our cheerleader and supporter for this whole time.
Yes,
so we're so grateful for that connection, and just really God connected us whenever we shared. That's the thing. Like it was actually stuck in my computer in a Google Doc for a long time, I would say. But I shared the vision with people, but I couldn't do anything with it. But when I shared the vision, and there were my college friends, Steph, she's like, oh, maybe I should connect you with Jimmy Lee. Just from that, I think it was a Christmas, get together.
Tommy and Jimmy, right?
Yeah. I've never met Tommy actually. But the two of them, they're just amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
And, cool. And just, Jimmy, I got to start talking with him. He helped coach me. He connected us with a mentor. He connected us with all these opportunities, and here we are. I mean, it's we've been doing this for 7 years. And so we've been able to pick 4 kids every year. We try to pick the best kids from the South and West sides, and we start these college savings accounts for them. And at first, we promised them just like tiny little amount, but now, our kids could actually save about $1,000 a year, and by the time they're done, I mean, they could have about $6,000, depending on
Mm-hmm.
how involved they are, how much that they serve the community, and how much they follow their leadership. So
that's so powerful. I remember when your organization first came to City Light. It was I think I'm going to even ask you. It was Ruby and Peace.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you meet them?
Ruby nominated Shalom.
yes, I know. I knew when that was going on. Yeah, when she was doing her poetry, doing all that. But I remember when Ruby and Peace brought it up and said, "Hey, there's this opportunity and all that." So I was wondering, how did you meet Ruby?
I didn't. I still don't know how she found out about it. I think we did a mass email to teachers who pray. That might have been
okay. Something. She was in Boys and Girls Club.
Yes,
she was the coordinator of Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
And Peace was also working at Boys and Girls Club.
That's how.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank God. You came, and I'm so happy for Shalom. She's my daughter. Just really excited about how she's doing, and she's awesome. And thanks for your investment in her. Yeah.
Well, I think her family has blessed me more than I've blessed them. I mean, I got to meet Pastor Olu, and he, we don't talk that often, but every conversation, he just guides me and challenges me in just the right way, and I think just the Spirit uses him to minister to me so often. Yeah, I have so many stories about that. Like, I just, when I'm afraid.
It's a divine connection. Yeah. It's a divine connection. Yeah. So
I could just share one story about that. And I don't know if it's really quickly, but like Shalom, she's, we worked on a project together where, she is coming from 95th, right? The end of the red line. And we wanted to go visit a shelter, New Life shelter, every month, once a month. And she would have to take the red line from one end to the opposite end. And in order for her to do this with me, and, we were teaching the students there how to make SMART goals. So that was our project. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is so dangerous. Shalom is traveling from one end to the other end of the red line. It's an hour and a half commute. And so I called Pastor Olu saying, I'm worried about her safety. Maybe we should figure out a way to do something more closer to her. And he just said, you have faith in God. God will protect her. And people do far more things, dangerous things to serve the Lord than what she is doing. And like absolute faith that this was, he told me to practice my faith and allowing her to do this.
Yes.
Blowing me away. Just God,
that's powerful.
We give it to him and let him, protect. And he did protect us, right, Shalom?
Yes. Oh, thank God. So tell me, what's the vision there? Just tell us a little bit more about Monsters. What do you see? How Christ is glorified in the world. Just share with us some of your vision, and then how can people be part of that vision?
Yeah. So the vision is we pick these kids when they're in 6th grade, and we are part of their job is to do a service project every year. So it's like this homework assignment. Every year you must do a service project. If you don't, we neglect. We deduct money from your bank account. If you do it, we give you a big bonus into account, and we pay for you to do your project. So these projects have, been it's been just so diverse and amazing. We had Ashley, her first year, as a 6th grader, she did I think 40 hours of research to find free and really cheap programs that the kids could do in the neighborhood during the summer so that they would stay off the streets and not get into trouble. And she compiled this very accurate list, and then she passed it out to people. That's one example, and we had Jeffrey, who, I'm sorry, I'm getting him called. He knew that we need to do something about the relationship between the community and the police. So, for Christmas, he had his friends make a bunch of Christmas cards and handed it and said, "We appreciate you." This is, before, probably 4 years ago, we had Mark, actually he, right before 8th grade, he got beat up really badly by neighborhood kids, and it was at a basketball court. So for his project, he actually, held a peace rally right on the corner that he got beat up. And, so we were able to go there and be a part of that. So just that assignment of doing this service project every year, it forces them to think and see, how they can make an impact.
Yeah.
So it's been such a blessing to see that.
It's a very ingenious model that you are using. I just love it. It's a kind of positive reinforcement, motivation to lead them into the right values, and service is one of those things. And then it's also linked with the education, right? So it's a
what ends up happening is, we're forcing them to do these service projects. And yes, it's almost like a burden, but what ends up happening is as they do these projects every year since 6th grade, they are actually developing this amazing resume. By the time they're in 12th grade and when they're applying for colleges, those are the experiences that actually will stick out the most.
Yes.
And we've seen that, that when they write their essays, they talk about their projects that they've led. Yeah. And our job as an organization is to, we pay for them to do their project. If they need supplies, we pay for it. If we could, find partnerships, we bring them whatever our connection is, we bring.
Yeah.
And literally, it's just who I know. It's just, my junior high friend or my, it's really
your network of friends. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I discovered is we all have a network. Even me, I'm a very normal, but I have friends and they have friends. Mm-hmm. And now our scholars themselves, they are building a network and recognize that, first of all, as a strength and connecting, these opportunities. So our vision, so back to that. Our vision is that we want our scholars, each of our scholars to make an impact among their friends. This is not charity work. It's not like we're going there to give poor kids a good thing, but actually we are empowering them to grow their influence and recognize their influence, grow their influence, and then partner with them, and that's our vision. So when we see our scholars, just doing these amazing things, it's so encouraging, and it really just encourages us to do more and grow. So.
Yeah. I mean, just a lot of things coming from listening to you. We don't have all the time, but different things just coming to my mind as you were talking. That one I would like to talk about when you mentioned tapping into your network. It's not like you are a millionaire or, you just have a vision, you have a heart, and God is moving in that direction. But you're tapping into your network. You are teaching the kids also that the relationships around you, they are there. They are, divine. You have to, use them, the right way. We have a training that we do at the LDC called the Leading Lights training. So people will come for the training who plan to start things, like maybe start a nonprofit, or they have a course in their heart that they want to start. So we get to a point. We had one this weekend, last weekend, and this past last 2 weekends, and we get to the point of how do you fund what you do, because all these visions, they require funding.
Right.
And the first thing I tell them is that the first key, apart from, I said faith is the first pillar, like trusting God is the first pillar, knowing that God is telling you to do this. But I said the second very important one is, I call it friends raising. Like, just look around you, in your network, and also just develop network. Just be friends with people. Just that what you need is already put in there, to carry it out. And your story is just an illustration of that. That you can do something. What you are doing is high leverage. I tell people, I said, there are many things we do. There are some things that are low leverage, some things are high leverage. Anytime you do things with the next generation, you are talking about high leverage stuff, because number one, they are going to outlive you, outdo you. And they're going to it's just going to be a chain reaction that goes on. I mean, you have no idea now what you are doing now, what is going to cost. Only you see what is going to happen as time moves on, and those kids begin to raise families and begin to touch other people in their spheres of influence. And that's just the blessing of what you are doing. And I really want to encourage you, because that's the heart of God. You are really tapping into something that is very dear to him, in investing in all these kids. And God is going to continue to strengthen you and just cause more and more resources to come. We really believe in you, and we trust that God is going to bring that vision to full manifestation. Yeah.
Pastor Olu says the same things.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask one more thing, and then I'm going to bring Pastor Olu up, and then we'll throw it open to the audience to ask some questions. So with like in your discussion when you were talking about the story of, like, mentioning the story of impact of the kids and all that, I wanted to ask you a question. Like, people, one thing I know, I think I've experienced it, and a lot of people say that when we minister to people, like when we do stuff like follow God and do like what you are doing, we actually get, people don't know that we actually get the most benefit and growth in what we do. Because this, people that we are reaching out to or working with, they actually minister to us. I just wanted you to talk about what have you learned? Like, what impact has been made on you as you're working with these kids and the people?
Yeah, so much. I mean, I don't know how honest I could be on social media, but like, just one of the things is, when I taught for that 1 month in the inner city, I think I became more like even more racist, if because and maybe just more aware of my own racism in my heart. I don't know if I became more racist, but just more racism in my heart. And it just made me like feel I have so much to grow. And my view of, you know, Austin and Englewood, it really changed, because as I met our scholars and their families, it's not, Englewood is not a place where people want to like run away from. It's their home. It's beautiful. There's beautiful homes right next to boarded up homes, you know, and like just expanding that view. It's like, this is somebody's home. It's a community, and they love their community, and man, they want it to be better. And just, I've like, in ways that I had to realize I came in with a very, you know, and I'm still like, if anything, I'm developing just a love for, I need to grow in how I see homes and community. So in that way, that's one thing. And another area is, you know, I felt like, oh man, how am I going to minister to an inner city, to a Black community, when I'm Korean American and I don't even like, you know, I can't dance. I'm not good at hip hop. I don't even listen to rap music, and, you know, whatever. And I realized God just told me, like, just, you can't be different. Like, I just come in as myself.
You'll be yourself. Yeah.
And I don't have to pretend to be something different. Yeah. And that's one thing that, you know, we do street cleanups once, you know, annually. And that's the message that now I'm telling my network, just, you don't have to do anything different. Just come and see and be yourself. So I've just, and all the scholars, they accept me for who I am. I don't have to pretend I'm anything different. And yeah, I'm just so thankful that I am able, like my capacity to understand the diversity, it has grown. And yet I don't have to pretend to be different. I don't have to be more, you know, Black or more, you know, something to accept it. I could just be myself. And yet I do love soul food more now. And I do love, you know, hip hop music more. And I am learning more and expanding, but I didn't have to change. It happened naturally. Yeah. And just coming as I am, I think that was the biggest thing. Like, I don't have to, you know, if anything, like all the people who volunteer with MEF, you don't have to be something different in order to start. You just start as yourself.
Yeah, I feel you. I went through that. I still go through that sometimes. When I first started ministering, I came from Nigeria, ministering on the South Side and all that. My passion was young people. Like, then a lot on the streets then where we were before, you know, some gentrification took place and all that. And I saw myself in those kids, but I don't speak like them. Sometimes when I speak, they laugh. I actually used to go to the detention center, like the juvenile detention center, to speak to the kids. So I remember my first few, you know, the first few times I went there, as I opened my mouth to speak, they just started laughing, you know, because of my accent and everything. They were just laughing, but I let them laugh. And then I continued. Oh, I was like, that first day, I was like, man, do I want to do this? But I went back. After a while, I just discovered that I don't have to be anything, just be myself. They started, you know, we started bonding, you know, I mean, I've just share stories. And after a while, I discovered that even our stories are unique, right? So by the time I told them my story of coming from Africa, where I used to live and all that, I remember, I will never forget this day that I told the story of growing up and all the different things, coming to the United States. And I tell them, I'm an engineer, I'm a pastor, I have a PhD and all that. And then I told the story of Joseph. That day was a breakthrough. Everybody there just stood up, like the detention center, and they all just started clapping. After that, you know, we were saying hello, you know, like we became, you know, we could talk some more. And I learned a lesson from that, because apart from that, I faced that in different places, that I don't have to be anybody else.
Yes.
If God tells you to do something, He already factored in your background, factored in everything in there. And He says that it's you. For that particular assignment, I am sending you to do it. I have other people that I will send to do other stuff. So God already factored all that in. So that was a breakthrough for me. So now it doesn't matter where I stand or what I do. I am just myself, you know. So.
That is a whole load off. That is so comforting, you know, just knowing that you don't have to pretend.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Wow. This has been very, very, very an interesting conversation. We're getting to the very end of it. I'm going to be bringing Pastor Olu up. We already have some questions from the audience. So we're just going to go into the question and answer part right now. So questions and comments. So everyone watching, let me change the view. So everyone watching, please throw your questions in there. Jenny will answer your question. So, and then Pastor Olu will also, ask you some questions. So, Pastor Olu, do you have something for her before I start taking the audience question? So, please put on your questions, audience.
Yeah. So, Miss Jenny, thank you very much for coming. It's been an amazing. Just listen to you. Just stepping out of faith, listen to God, and just taking that first step. It's been an amazing journey. So, my question for you is that, God gave you, something came to your mind and God gave you a vision and you step out, with God-given vision. Can you encourage people that want to do the same thing that you want to do? How can they do it? How can they overcome that first fear of not taking that step? Can you encourage them and can you just speak to them?
That's a great question. Yeah, I would just encourage, like we said, I mean, God did not make a mistake with you. Where you are, what circumstances and what failures or whatever you have been through, it's already God ordained that for you, and He wants to use you. So if you have that faith already that God has not made a mistake with you, number one. And then that network that we were talking about earlier, we all have a network. No matter, you might not recognize it, but, you're starting with your parents and your siblings and then your friends and then your friends' parents or, and just when you want to do something, you got to share it with your network. You just start there. And I could not have imagined, I couldn't have planned the steps that it took to get here. Like I didn't know we were going to get connected with Good City. I didn't know that we should get our own nonprofit. We wanted to stay in a safety net for a long time, but we kind of got forced to go out and become our own nonprofit. So I think number one is just know that God did not make a mistake, and number two, recognize that you have a network. Everyone does, whether and it starts small, but you have to share your vision with your network, and I think that's a confirmation. If this is from God, then you'll get confirmation from your network of people, your church friend, your buddy at school. They will get excited with you, and then that's confirmation that that's something that God wants you to do. And then if it is, they won't just say it; they'll want to do it with you. And that's what we were blessed with, because we had 4 people in the beginning that agreed to do something together. We got other people excited, and then we were able to share that. So
thank you. I have a question from the audience. Are you able to minister to the parents of these children too?
So to be honest, that's not part of our mission, but it happens by chance sometimes, not that often, but sometimes, because we are we're doing stuff with the kids, and then we make sure we ask permission from the parents, and then if the parents get curious, then we get to share. I get to share my faith, and I get to pray with parents when I get that permission. So because we are investing into the kids, we're able to occasionally talk to the parents and share why we're doing what. And I guess that's one thing. The question always is, why are you doing it? And whenever I get to answer that question, it is our privilege. It is my privilege to hang out with your kid and to be a part of that. I know that this kid is going to do way more than I am going to do. So it's my honor and my privilege, and to be able to share that with them, that God is allowing me to that privilege of that relationship. I think I do get a chance to once in a while, talk with parents, but we focus on the kids, and if God allows that occasionally.
Awesome. Pastor Olu,
Yeah, let me talk about that. So just to let you know, my daughter is a scholar, and one thing I realized that, you all are doing a lot of great things to minister to the parent. I'm a parent of a scholar, and one thing I realized that every time I see Shalom doing stuff, every time I see Shalom, going beyond what I think, she can do or she could do, it's something that really, really gladdens my heart. And every time we come to clean up the streets, every time we come to, to run, every time we come to go to downtown just to mingle with other children, talk to them, mingle with other parents, share our faith. A lot of times we expose us to a lot of teachings. I remember the last time we went to 2 or 3 years ago, we went to RIT and he took all the scholars to RIT, and we went to the college and they told us what is going to happen when you want to come to college, the process and everything. So I believe you are ministering to parents through, number one, just the what do you call it, the relationship that you are exposing us to, the friendship you are exposing us to. That's number one. And number two, the involvement. We are all getting involved in what Most Education is doing. I mean, is a huge investment both for the parent and the children too.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. So there's a question here. How do you help your student buy into MEF?
We would love it to be automatic, but we bribe. So our program, basically, it's like all these awesome things that you could do for yourself. Like come to our leadership conference, come to the college meeting, and do your service project. But if they do it, whenever they do anything, like show up on time, we put money into their bank account. So each of our kids have a bank account, and they are growing that money depending on how much, how active they are with us. So that's what I meant. Like they can raise up to $1,000, but they have to show up. They have to come to the monthly meeting. They have to come to the Zoom call. So it's all good for them. But I don't know. Maybe they come because they don't want to get. They want to get that fund, but they get a lot out of each. We have to make sure that each opportunity is worth their time. So yeah, so we bribe them, but maybe some of them don't need the bribe. But we know. I mean, I work that way as well. Like I'll show up to things that I get paid for. So
we all do. Sometimes I have to bribe Pastor Olu too. So.
Food works.
Food doesn't work for me. So.
No, don't worry. I know it's key. I know it's buttons. The right buttons. So how can people support you?
Oh yeah, a lot of ways. I mean, financially, of course, we are, we take donations on our website. But the other thing is actually your professional networks are always really, really great. Actually, most of our opportunities that we give our scholars is because, one of my friends, like for example, one of my friends is a partner at a pretty large law firm, and he really wanted to connect our scholars, our kids, with his network, and his network is powerful. So we have been starting these connection meetings where he gets somebody, and I connect them with one of our scholars, and then they have 2 meetings 6 months apart. So we created an opportunity like that. Or I have a church friend who looked through all of our scholars and tried to find opportunities for all of them. And so that's why we were able to go to Rush University to do a tour of the medical unit, or the medical school. So just have, like, if you want to help out, I mean, you could always contact me, and we create these opportunities. I tell you about our scholars and tell them, maybe would you meet with them? Would you just have a Zoom call, the 3 of us, and let just find, honestly, like, just get to know this kid, and you're gonna love him. You're gonna love her. Like just because you talk and you see each other, it'll be, and now it's easier because everything's on Zoom. So it's easier. Just, if you want to get to like meet one kid, I'll choose the kid, meet them, and then, let's just see where it goes from there. So yeah, there's every person around me, I feel like, is like a rich resource. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have 4 more minutes, to the end of this show. We want to ask you more questions, but you have been so gracious with your time. You've, answered our questions. I know, some questions are still coming in. So, but I might sneak in one, I have some more too, or maybe we're going to have to do something else. But, let me just put this, how long do you keep your kids in the program?
Okay.
Age or grade?
Yes.
Could I answer that in like 1 minute?
Yeah. So they start in 6th grade and they go up to 12th grade. So one thing that we did really early on is we actually only select 4 kids every year, and we invest in them for the 6 years until 12th grade. Actually, and then after 12th grade, we're trying to figure out, and we're developing like a young leaders program. Actually, Shiloh is part of our Leaders of Change program now, because so as he goes into college, we want our scholars to kind of get in there together, and then even after that, we're hoping that they become like a junior board. So we're developing. We want, actually, when we pick them in 6th grade, we would love to keep working with them and eventually let them be our donors and our mentors, and then our board members take over.
That is so great. That's so powerful. I love that. I love the plan. Wow. Thank you so much, Jenny. Thanks for sharing your story. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
That was easier than I thought it was going to be.
I tell people backstage, I'm like, oh, when we get up there, it's just going to flow. We're just going to have a conversation. And I thoroughly enjoyed this discussion. I would like to have you on, later to just, check on how Monster is doing and how you are doing. We believe in you. You have a partner in us. Whatever we have at City Light, the Light Development Center that you need, building people, whatever, just let us know. So we really believe in what you are doing, and we appreciate you.
I'll say yes faster next time, Pastor.
All right. So audience, we are going to be just ending today. Let's appreciate, let's appreciate Jenny. She's been gracious, and she's really inspired us and really spoken to every one of us. Anybody that is walking, out any vision, you can pick certain things from our story that God can use, to just help you on your own journey. So we really want to appreciate every one of you for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be signing off right now, and we'll be back tomorrow with another guest. We have Dr. Edelf of Nation Strategy, all the way from Arizona, will be joining us tomorrow, and it's going to be another powerful conversation. So we appreciate you. Pastor Olu, please, can you take us out?
So thank you very much. Thank you, Miss Jenny, for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Land, for making this, this process, simple for Miss Jenny. I can see the way she's smiling. She's enjoying herself. And I just want to appreciate everybody, joining us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Thank you very much, and see you same time tomorrow at 5 p.m.
5 p.m., 10 p.m. GMT. We just changed our time in Chicago. So 10 p.m. GMT, no longer 11 p.m., 10 p.m. GMT. All right. So bye, everyone. Jenny, you can stay. So bye, everyone. We'll see you.